Give everybody a minute to log in. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. We're just going to give Zoom a chance to log our audience members in this morning before we get started. So we will go ahead and get underway. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Jason Palich on behalf of the 495 MetroWest Partnership. I want to thank you for joining us for this morning's session of our Energy and Sustainable Development Committee. Again, my name is Jason Palich. I have the honor of serving as Executive Director of the partnership. In just a moment, I'm going to be turning things over to our Energy and Sustainable Development Committee co-chairs. But first, I'm going to go over some housekeeping items briefly. First and foremost, today's session is being recorded and will be made available for viewing later through our social media platforms. All attendees are muted during today's session. During the Q&A portion of our panel discussion, we will invite audience members to ask questions of our panelists by typing them into the chat function of our Zoom meeting today. Our committee co-chairs will be moderating the Q&A portion by selecting questions from the chat. Please note, of course, that any questions which are redundant, overly long, or disrespectful will not be presented to our panelists. At a pre-pandemic meeting of our committee, we'd be asking participants to go around the room and introduce themselves. But in keeping with that spirit, we invite our audience members at this time to utilize the chat function of the meeting to introduce yourself by typing your name, title, and organization so that everyone can get a sense of who is with us in our audience this morning. Should you experience any technical problems during the session, our immediate guidance would be to log out and then log back in. Should you need any further assistance beyond that point, the partnership's Manager of Policy and Planning, Jeremy Thompson, is available to assist you and can be reached via email at jeremy@495partnership.org. I want to thank our Energy and Sustainable Development Committee co-chairs, Kristen of the town of Shrewsbury and Beth Wierling of the Kraft group. At this time, I'm going to turn things over to Beth, who will introduce our panelists. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you to the audience and our panelists for joining us today. I'm really excited about this great lineup of panelists we have joining us to discuss COVID-19's impact on the business sector, their strategies for resilience, and their thoughts on the future. I'm pleased to introduce our panelists, starting with Lisa Churchill. Lisa Churchill is the owner of Blush Bouquets, a flower and gift shop located in Ashland. She has spent almost 20 years in luxury event planning and comes from a green family of horticulturalists, landscapers, farmers, and flower growers. Blush Bouquet opened in April 2019 when Lisa purchased a recently closed 60-year-old flower shop. Blush Bouquets is currently the only florist in Ashland and passionately makes up bouquets in-house and personally delivers to recipients in Ashland, Hopkinton, Holliston, Framingham, Natick, Southborough, and other surrounding towns as well. Next is George Koutros. George is Director of State Government Relations for Sanofi US. Sanofi, a global healthcare leader, discovers, develops, and distributes therapeutic solutions focused on patients' needs. George has worked in the pharmaceutical industry for over 25 years. His career began with Schering-Plough, now Merck, and he joined Sanofi in 2001. He held various positions of increasing responsibility, including sales management, market access management, and federal reimbursement policy. In his current position, George is engaged in legislative and regulatory affairs in the state of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, New Jersey, and Delaware. George graduated with a BA in economics from Bucknell University. Ed Cuthbertson, Ed came to Bass Pro after 13 years with Walmart in the Richmond, Virginia area. Ed joined Bass Pro as a group sales manager in fishing department and quickly took over the hunting department overseeing both areas. He then moved to assistant general manager role before being appointed general manager at the Patriot Place store in 2014. Brian Earley. Brian Earley is Vice President and General Manager of MPP Development, one of the Kraft Group companies where he oversees all aspects for the commercial development and operations for Patriot Place, New England's premier mixed-use lifestyle destination. Patriot Place is a 1.3 million square foot retail, dining, and entertainment complex located in Foxborough, adjacent to Gillette Stadium. Prior to joining the Kraft Group, Brian was Vice President of Operations with BJ's Wholesale Club, where he led the growth of several retail operating units, including the development of BJ's Gas, and oversaw the implementation and rollout of BJ's.com, the Wholesale Club's online sales platform. Brian serves as executive faculty member and academic advisor for Dean College School of Business. Katie Quinn. Katie Quinn, a certified cheese professional and is the owner of Mullahy's and Artisan Cheese and Specialty Food Shop on Main Street in Hudson that recently celebrated 5 years of business. Katie is a knowledgeable foodie and throughout her career has worked for several restaurants and hotels in food service roles such as manager, server, and bartender. Katie has a BS in business with a concentration in management and finance from Worcester State University. Just prior to starting Mullahy, Katie worked for a large specialty grocer for several years and managed the specialty food department in one of its stores. Austin O'Connor. Austin O'Connor is principal owner and operator of the Briar Group. Founded by his father, Austin F. O'Connor, the Briar Group has been one of Boston's leading and longest standing independently owned restaurant groups for over 25 years. From modern and inventive dishes to comfort food, classic and authentic Irish fare, the Briar Group delivers high quality dining experiences in warm, inviting settings. With 14 concepts throughout the area, including six-string grill and stage at Patriot Place in Foxborough, the Briar Group is rooted in Boston's history and proud to be an active member in the communities in which they operate. So welcome to all of our panelists. And now I'd like to turn it over to Kristen and our panelists to start with the brief summary of their experiences. Lisa, we'll start with you since alphabetically you're first.
Fantastic. Thank you. Good morning. So like Beth said, I'm Lisa. I'm the owner here at Blush Bouquets. We are a full service flower shop and gift shop located in downtown Ashland. We offer plants, gift items, stationery, bath products, candles, balloons, you name it, we probably do it. I try to focus mostly on carrying local female-owned brands whenever possible, small batch only, things that can't be found everywhere, to make it a very interesting shopping experience in our store. We currently have one full-time employee, and you're looking at her. This time last year, I had 5 employees. So you could say that's one big thing that the pandemic has done to our business, is learning how to operate very lean and mean. I do have help from very supportive family that help with deliveries, but most of the time, if somebody's delivering their flowers, it's going to be my face on your Ring doorbell. So how the pandemic really affected our business is the pandemic made my business. I know that's a really strange thing to say, especially in this world where you hear of another small business closing every day, restaurants closing, but this pandemic really forced me to find out what my business was, focus on doing what we do best. We had to go from being a 60-year-old flower shop that was really known for your traditional flowers to a gift shop with over 700 gift items available online, available for pickup. We also faced a lot of challenges with sourcing because the pandemic affected everybody globally. So flower growers down in South America got shut down. All my wholesalers got shut down. So I went for a while without actually being able to source any flowers and had to rely only on our gift lines to keep the bills paid. Another thing that really helped us in this current climate is partnership. I can't say enough about partnership, finding local brands, local people, local friends to work with has really elevated my business and helped spread, free marketing. It's spread the word about who we are, and has let me do things like offer a monthly subscription program with one of my closest friends that gets you flowers and baked goods. So who doesn't want flowers and cake once a month delivered to their house? We also can offer this year's hottest novelty item, the hot cocoa bomb. It helps to have the bomb lady on speed dial and be able to partner with as many local organizations, including the town of Ashland, to do a lot of different fundraisers around town, to really just get the name out for our company. So again, I know it sounds funny to say it, but without this pandemic, I think we would be a very, very different business, not operating at the level that we're operating now. And I'm just really excited to be here, to hear everyone else's experiences and learn some more. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. George, next we'll hear from you.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I thank the partnership for the opportunity to speak to everyone today. First and foremost, I hope everyone and your families, everyone is well and safe during this difficult time. Just a little bit about Sanofi. We are an innovative global biopharmaceutical company based in Paris. Sanofi Genzyme, our specialty care business unit, is located here in the Commonwealth, and our global headquarters is in Cambridge. Our therapy focus is specialty care, and that comprises rare disease, multiple sclerosis, oncology, general medicine, which is our diabetes and cardiovascular portfolios, vaccines, both pediatric and influenza, and then finally our consumer health division, the OTC division, products such as Nasacort, Icy Hot, Gold Bond, all those products there. A quick note on the vaccines. Proud to say that Sanofi has 2 COVID-19 targets in development. One is in phase 3 clinical trials. We are hopeful that we will be able to bring both vaccines to the market, hopefully by mid-year next year. So we're working very diligently on that as well. In Massachusetts, we have sites in Cambridge and Waltham, but most important to this group today, we have locations and facilities in Framingham as well as Northborough. All total, we have about 4,200 employees in the Commonwealth. Framingham comprises our research and development and manufacturing facilities. This campus is on New York Avenue, very close to the Sheridan, right off of Route 9 in Framingham there. And in Northborough, it's a packaging and distribution facility on Forbes Road, right off Whitney Road there. All total, about 2,200 employees between those two towns. Both sites comprise our U.S. rare disease operations, and we manufacture 4 therapies for rare diseases for global demand. 2 quick highlights at the Framingham site. Last October, we opened an internationally recognized 2nd-generation manufacturing facility where we hope to manufacture up to 4 therapies in the future. This new facility is 8 times more productive than a 1st-generation facility, as well as it uses 80% less energy, 91% less water. So certainly a very positive environmental footprint for that building. And then secondly, more good news, we hope to begin packaging at the Framingham site for our COVID-19 vaccine. And that may occur by the end of this year or January. Real quick, what the pandemic has changed for our business. Certainly, right away, we classify ourselves as essential or non-essential. And folks that are in research and manufacturing distribution, we labeled as essential workers. These are folks that need to come into the facilities to maintain the continuity of operations to manufacture those therapies for rare diseases for patients across the globe. Not everyone was recognized essential. We certainly streamlined the number to the minimum that we needed to keep facilities open, but certainly that was important. And those folks have worked throughout the crisis to this day. Everyone else, including myself, non-essential, remote working from home. So I'm coming to you from my basement, my home office here. And we will all keep working from home until the transmission of the virus is controlled. A quick takeaway here, the nature and the value of the workplace will change. It's no longer about coming to a building to get on teleconferences or to get onto Zoom meetings, right? We see the value of the workplace to be reimagined and reimagined into a very purposeful in-person engagement. That's what we see going forward, certainly for Sanofi, but maybe for other companies as well. And this has implications for the layout of a building internally, as well as implications for the commercial real estate market. The pandemic did impact our sales, and it differs by portfolio. Rare disease, oncology, MS, sales slightly down compared to last year. This is a direct result of infusion centers, certain sections of hospitals closed during the lockdown, and also just in general fear for some patients to come into that setting to receive their infusions, their IV therapy, which that's what these products are. Also, the restriction on elective surgeries. Again, the definition is not just cosmetic, but also non-emergency surgeries were restricted. So that had somewhat of an impact. Vaccines initially, our sales were down, especially pediatric vaccines, as offices were closed. Again, families were not coming into practices, but those sales have rebounded, especially with influenza, and certainly everyone being very mindful to receive a flu shot this season. That has certainly rebounded as well.
Just gonna have to say time for you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Ed, we'll move on to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah, here at Bass Pro Shops, when everything happened, we're a destination retailer. We're part museum. We're also a retail establishment. So we get a lot of visitors throughout the whole year. One thing, we were enjoying a very good year, and the pandemic hit. We went through some ups and downs at that time, with different mandates, different things were limiting people in the building. So we followed all the mandates, and that affected us right around March 24th, where we really had to limit people in the building. And we worked with our local health department, and we were able to stay open basically another 8 days, and then we were closed April 1st. How that affected us, we were doing 12% sales compared to the year before. So only 12% of our business. And basically that was shipping out of our store all over the country. As we continued, we were able to open our curbside and appointment only. So that helped our business also. And then when you turn around and looked at it, right before we reopened in June, that had grown to 33% of our business. So the online factor, shipping from store, curbside, was very beneficial to gain some of our. It's a big number to come back from. So how that's affected us when we reopened, it was wide open, so to speak. We saw a lot of families get engaged with each other to be able to go out and enjoy the outdoors. And that's exactly what we want. We're seeing now that that affected us, how we're seeing future shoppers now. A lot of times people were saying, I haven't fished in years. And then they turned around and said, I want to get back into it. So for us, we've overcome that deficit. We're enjoying some really good sales, and we're looking forward. Now, the biggest thing is keeping people safe. When we were closed, we were able to get the plexiglass that we needed, the additional sanitation stations, so that when we opened back up, we increased our porter service, wiping down elevators, rails, everything like that. So we had a safe opening. Other than that, we look forward to these next 2 weeks too, because it's going to be extremely busy. We do have Santa's Wonderland, where families can come here and enjoy getting a picture with Santa safely. It's done by appointment only. Santa's behind the plexiglass. The elves wear masks. Santa wears mask. We also have the plexiglass for the picture. So all in all, we've had a great response to that, and look forward to the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Ed. Brian, we'll hear from you.
Good morning. Thank you, Beth and Jason and Kristen for having me. Patriot Place, as you described, is 1.3 million square feet of retail entertainment and dining outside of Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. And when I look back, we're getting ready to appear on this panel. I look back on the days which we considered the dark days of March, April, May, but they weren't as dark maybe as days we're looking at right now, because we didn't know the length of what the shutdown was going to be. When we were operating up until the mandated shutdowns to non-essential businesses occurred, we had nearly 3,000 employees at Patriot Place, between all of our restaurants and hotels and certainly retailers and entertainment venues. But we thought it was going to be a short hiatus, and then things started to really set in that this was going to go on longer. What we ended up doing is, we're here for our tenant partners. We try to not refer to them as tenants and refer to them more as partners. And we had businesses of all shapes and sizes, and their abilities to deal with what they had to deal with between furloughing and then going after PPP stimulus funds. We became a resource as much as counselors. And the first thing I had my team do is we set up a portal for all of our tenant partners to have access to the information. As everyone on this panel knows, and probably also in those listening, information was coming fast and furious on how to access funds for support from various governmental bodies. So we tried to provide as much of that information as we could, up to date and clear. We helped some of our tenant partners actually connect with banks for their PPP loans. But it was a challenging time. It was hard for us and for my team to see people not here, to have the center shut down except for some essential businesses, including CVS and Trader Joe's, in the grocery category. It was tough. Ed mentioned that they were open for 8 days, then they had to close. We tried to work together to reopen them as an essential business under different categories. We felt that they were. Others disagreed with us, but we fought the fight alongside of Ed and his team to try to get that Bass Pro open, because it's an important part of the community. We have a lot of medical office here. Of course, that was left open essential, but the numbers dropped off as those in the medical field know that things really unessential procedures and things dropped off. So we stopped seeing folks on the medical side. We then pivoted to make sure that we supported our tenant partners, that this was going to be a long-term issue. We projected that this would, at the time we're talking in May and June, we were looking at about a year of challenges relative to the COVID and when the vaccine would be available and things return to normal. So we pivoted in towards supporting our tenant partners in various ways to ensure it wasn't about the short term for us. A number of landlords that are out there probably look short term relative to their cash flow, but we looked long term and developed programs for each and every one of our tenant partners. They were all specific to that type of business, to make sure that they would come out healthy at the end of this. It was almost like being a general manager of a sports team. I had to decide that I liked the team we had. I know there were going to be some changes that might occur just organically, but I liked the team we had, and I wanted to make sure this team was going to be with us long term, and we did everything we needed to do for that. So I can't say enough about how incredible the restaurants and the hotels and the retailers like Ed and Austin joining us today, the work that they've done to make it safe for people to come down to restaurants. We have 19 restaurants. We have 2 hotels. They're among many in the Commonwealth and certainly in the MetroWest area who have done everything right and deserve the business to come back. And because they've done everything safely, they deserve the support of the state and local governments and boards of health that they've worked so hard to ensure that people can enjoy whether it's Patriot Place or other developments in places like, Lisa's shop and Katie's shop, that you've done everything right, and we deserve the business and take care of folks, and we're hoping that we avoid any further shutdowns. I know we had a little bit of blip yesterday in some of the business segments with what the governor reported, but we are doing things safely, and we should be applauded for that, especially those that are doing it and doing so hard, and we're trying our best. So again, thank you for having us today.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Katie?
Good morning. My name is Katie, and I do own Mullahy's Cheese Shop down on Main Street in Hudson. Rather than kind of echo what everybody else has said, I first want to say thank you for having us. And more importantly, I think Lisa, Brian, Ed, everybody's hit the nail on the head. It's about keeping people safe. That's our number one priority, but also making sure our businesses are able to make it through this challenging time. We have at Mullahy's, if you've ever been in there, we are a very small shop. We're about 500 square feet. We have 3 part-time employees and a full-timer, like that would be me, like Lisa, I get that. We also have a few seasonal people who help us out over time. This year, we actually sell food. We are a food establishment. We're not a restaurant. So we already have a lot of food safety guidelines that we follow every day anyways, through the boards of health, through, the regulatory committees. So those restrictions actually for us were just pretty much going over what we already do and maybe taking it up a little bit of a notch, adding some plexiglass, maybe cleaning a little extra, things like that. So for us, that was kind of like second nature. We're already, doing those to the best of our ability. What we saw challenging was we're on a main street where there are several restaurants and there's a couple of breweries and there's some other shops that have been on there. And all of a sudden our foot traffic just stopped because people weren't going anywhere. Obviously they couldn't just, restaurants were closed. They were doing takeout only. It was a very different thing. So we kind of had to do kind of an about face. What could we do? We were allowed to stay open because we do sell food, but we did close in March for about 3 weeks to kind of like regroup and kind of come up with a plan. So what we did is we started doing one-day sales in March, April, and May. And we offered everybody could email or call us. Most people emailed, and we did curbside pickup. So those were a very crazy, think about a Christmas week in one day, 3 months in a row. For those of you who do retail, that was a little crazy, but it was very successful. And it let people know we're still here, and we really wanted to keep that. The other thing that we do that Lisa, I think, touches on, so I don't want to repeat too much, is collaboration. We've been very, very fortunate. Main Street Hudson is a very unique location. Everybody looks out for everybody. Everyone wants to see how your business is doing, how you're doing as a business owner. So back in May, Kith and Kin decided, hey, what if we do a Mother's Day box? And 7 businesses all jumped in on it. And it was extremely successful. We offered basically a one-stop shopping on Main Street. You could get a gift from 7 different businesses. And it was very, very successful. In fact, it was so successful, we're doing it again for the holiday season. So that's pretty exciting. The other thing that we started to do was prior to COVID, I taught a lot of classes in person. I went to businesses, I went to restaurants, I went to wineries, breweries, worked with a lot of different partners to have like cheese tasting classes, went to homes for private parties. And of course, when COVID hit, that just stopped immediately. So because of that, because our business was growing that way, it did kind of, we do have a downturn year over year, but again, we decided, okay, what else can we do? What about a virtual class? So we started doing virtual classes, and I will tell you, those have been very successful as well, because people are in their own homes. They buy a kit from us, like we partner with local restaurant, and they get wine, they get cheese, they get all kinds of things. We come on, we bring experts on, and we talk to them for about an hour and a half, and we taste wine, taste cheese. Everybody's happy because cheese makes you happy anyways. And so that's been like one of our biggest successors as well. How do we see us moving forward? I would like everybody else, I'm thinking a good year before we can do, because we can't sample in the shop. That was like our number one thing. It hurts us when people say, well, can we try that? We're like, no, you can't. We just can't do that right now. So we'd like to, in a year and a half, kind of keep doing what we're doing virtually and these other collaborations, but also maybe have safety features where people can come in and sample again, and we can get back to, having more people on the street. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Katie. All right, and Austin?
Hello, Austin O'Connor, the CEO, president of the Briar Group. And, we own and operate 14 different restaurant concepts in 10 locations, sixth string being the location at Patriot Place. Currently, of those 10 locations, we have 5 that are open. The urban areas, Boston, they're the ones that have been really, really hurt. I'll list those restaurants briefly. We have, unfortunately, we have restaurants within hotels which aren't doing well. That would be MG O'Connor's and City Bar at the Westin Waterfront. At the Lenox Hotel, we have City Bar, City Table, and Solace. We also focus on entertainment venues like Patriot Place with Gillette, but we also have Harp and Hurricanes at the Boston Garden, and that's extremely slow. There's really no traffic at all over there. In the Seaport, we have Gather, which did pretty well this summer. And then we have Glass House in Cambridge, and that one, Cambridge is very slow as well. It's really relying on people coming to work, and no one's coming to work. Right now, prior to COVID, we had 700 employees, and we had to shut everything down and lay everyone off. We had 10 people, I think, trying to figure out how to get things back. Currently, we have about 150 employees. Business overall is I'm probably at about 20% of where I was in 2019. Specific to Patriot Place, as Brian had mentioned, it's important to work with your landlord, and certainly Brian stepped and quickly allowed us to be able to continue to operate down there. And that's one location that we've had that actually has been doing pretty well. The challenges that we have is, the warm weather was wonderful, and we had patios and people came out and outdoor dining, but there's a fear of coming inside. That's a challenge for us over the next 4 months. Certainly we're very concerned about that. We also have live entertainment, and we can't operate live entertainment. And as of yesterday, that was even further restricted, and there was more restrictions put on us yesterday. We're going to get through this, and we get through this by interacting with landlords, and hopefully we'll have landlords that cooperate like the Kraft did. Interacting with our banks. PPP was very helpful. We're very hopeful that Washington passes some more relief this week, and to allow us to just get through this. It's about survival in our industry. It's very difficult to even staff restaurants. Making sure employees are safe, having them feel comfortable, making sure we're doing all the right things so our customers are safe. It's been a whirlwind for our industry, trying to adapt to the restrictions that COVID has put in place. But happy to be here, and I'm very hopeful about the future. It's just getting there and just how quickly we can get there. Thanks.
Thank you, Austin. And thank you to all of our panelists for your perspective. Challenging time, but as you've all indicated, we will get through this and get back to a new normal. So, Kristen, I'm going to turn it over to you now to help facilitate the question and answer.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending. As stated, I'm Kristen Lassie, Assistant Town Manager with the Town of Shrewsbury, and also the Public Sector Co-Chair of the Energy and Sustainability Committee. This is our second group. We had Secretary Keneally with us about a month and a half ago to talk about the reopening plans, and now it's great to have the business set before us in the MetroWest region to talk about how they have reopened their businesses and how they've adapted. We do have a chat function. If you'd like to ask any questions of any of the panelists, please do so. There is one in there right now that I will read off and let the panelists answer. I also do have prepared questions if people are being a little bit shy or haven't had enough coffee this morning. So I will start with one of the asked questions of the panelists. So as Lisa, Brian, and Katie and Ed described, the impacts of the pandemic and the shutdowns have made many businesses rethink their business operation model, particularly those in the general public interactions. What insights have any of you learned that you would recommend that Governor Baker's local rapid recovery plan should incorporate to revive local communities? Did anyone want to take that? Did anyone use kind of the shared streets grants with their local municipalities or anything else?
I'll jump in if that's okay, Lisa. You know, we certainly took advantage of flexibility in growing outdoor dining spaces when it was appropriate during the the spring and summer, as Austin alluded. We had much larger dining spaces. You know, it's obviously a huge challenge with with winter coming along. I would say another area that should be considered, and it depends on the municipality, and it requires some ABCC involvement, but some flexibility on alcohol sales and where you can do it. A lot of restaurants had to shift to outdoor spaces that were outside of their call it their demise premises under their liquor license, and being able to have a little more flexibility in terms of where service could be held is something we would like to see, certainly in a property like ours. And there are many developments that would probably like to see relaxed opportunities for people to enjoy because they have to be separated so far, possibly away from the demise premises. So that's one area that I would like to see encouraged in from a legislative standpoint. When we come back out of this in the spring, we're still going to be dealing with the situation of outdoor dining being critical.
Did anyone else want to join in on that question before we move on to the next question? All right, here's another great question, and we actually hope to have this dovetail into a future session. How can municipal governments help businesses survive during this time? So can any of the panelists give maybe an example of how they worked with their municipality on an innovative idea or something they wished they had asked their municipality to help out with on a local level?
I can speak a little bit to this, kind of going back to the whole idea of partnership and collaboration. This one's kind of outside the idea of what you would typically think of partnering with a municipality on, but we here in Ashland are lucky enough to have an amazing director of business development in Beth Reynolds, who is always going out and looking for new opportunities to help all of our various businesses really succeed. So Beth and I dreamed up this program called Up Ashland. It really came from her heart and soul and everything that she does for this town, where quarterly we're offering a different program here in our store where our customers and townspeople can come in and purchase an item. So last quarter it was called Color Up Ashland, and people could come in and buy balloons to tie to their mailboxes, just to show the community that we're all in this together. There's color out on the streets, something to just kind of brighten people's spirits. And the proceeds from that actually went to support our local food pantry. We're doing the program again right now, and it's called Light Up Ashland, and we're selling luminary bag kits. Again, the proceeds are going into the food bank, but for me as a business owner, I feel great because I'm supporting the food bank, but we're getting a lot of customers in our store. It's increasing our foot traffic, obviously in a really safe way. Our store is really small, as you can see from the background. We only allow 3 people in the store at a time, but it's bringing a lot of new faces in, plus doing good. Everybody loves our Ashland Emergency Fund here in town, so they're always very eager to support that. So it's kind of thinking outside the box, but it is partnering with a really strong town employee.
Kristen, yeah, our town did a lot too. We worked with the BID as well, the Business Improvement District. And what they kind of did at the beginning when all the restaurants were really up and running, they actually made sure everybody had signs that said, pick up parking only for takeout, no long-term. They kind of, adjusted where people were parking on Main Street. We weren't a restaurant per se, but they know we sell food. They checked in with the retailers. Do you want one too? Because people were starting to offer curbside. And it was just really nice that everybody kind of was checking in on everybody and seeing what they needed, and made those programs available for everyone, which was nice and helpful.
Kristen, one thing that I wanted to highlight was the relationship that we have with the Foxborough town manager and the Board of Selectmen. To say it bluntly, I was very frustrated at the lack of support on a widespread state level of helping restaurants and get the message out that it's safe to go back and dine inside restaurants. And so, Patriot Place, we developed a series of commercials, almost PSAs, and we, couldn't get the level of support at the state level, but I talked to our town manager, Bill Keegan. He's a fantastic town manager. And not only did he participate in that commercial shot, the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Mark Elfman, also supported us by getting the message out that not only at Patriot Place are restaurants safe, but also in the town of Foxborough and the communities around us. And again, it was their support of what we were doing, what our restaurants and our entertainment venues and our hotels were doing to get the message out there. Because if you're going to set regulations that say that all of the restaurants had to abide by, I felt it was necessary for those in charge who set these standards to come out and say it was safe, and we weren't getting that support. My feeling was, but we did decide to take it upon ourselves to put the message out, and getting the support from our town manager and Board of Selectmen was very important to us. It's always important to have that relationship.
Yeah, Brian, I'm happy you brought that up. So two things you missed on the municipalities. It is as Brian had mentioned in his first comment, the outdoor dining really did help us quite a bit. And I know that you have to work with the city to be able to allow that to happen. And I was very thankful that really was encouraged, and that really kind of helped a lot of us. And the coming inside right now, most of us restaurateurs are a little frustrated, with some of the regulations. There's a feeling that, the spread is, the stats that I have is it's like a 1% or less than 1% that are happening within restaurants, 0.5 from the last stat I had seen. And that the restrictions, because authorities they restrict when we can stay open till. And I find that to be just challenging, because when you look at the stats, most of the spread is happening within households, and it kind of forces people into those environments when they can't come to a restaurant which is controlled. So the fear factor, as Brian was alluding to with municipalities, and that message of being safe is something that I want to just reiterate, and I couldn't agree more. I think that in general, we have to be very, very careful with COVID, but the restaurants have been doing an outstanding job in making sure that the protocols are being followed. And I don't necessarily know if the restrictions that are being put on there are helping. And we know they're hurting our businesses, but I just think that the fear factor is very, very substantial in the media, and maybe municipalities can help with that.
Great, thank you. We have another question that came in from the audience for George specifically. There seems to be some hesitancy from some of our community members about taking the COVID-19 vaccine. And since your business is on that front line, if say only 70% of the public gets the vaccine, will that significantly delay the return to normal life? Is anyone in your operations or your business or your realm of life talking about those things?
Absolutely. It's a very great question. Thank you, Kristen, for that. We see that as a challenge throughout our society, the vaccine hesitancy and the need to bolster vaccine confidence. There's no question that these vaccines are novel, they're new, so that may lead to some of that hesitancy. But certainly, Sanofi, we are working with state groups, national organizations, local organizations to help where we can to supply information on the science, on the efficacy, on the safety of vaccines in general, and certainly where available for the COVID-19 vaccines that are here and that will be coming for that. I think the data still, we have to wait and see in terms of is 70% of the population inoculated? Is it 80% for that herd immunity? I think we still need to work through that and work to that conclusion. But certainly we have a lot of work ahead of us in terms of just confidence in the vaccines and specific groups. There's no question underserved or minority populations have reservations, rightfully so. And that just requires further effort and outreach and action by us, by the industry, and certainly public organizations as well to bridge that gap and certainly to build confidence for folks.
Great, thank you very much. I'll point the next question to Ed and then open it up to other panelists. So with people really getting outdoors this past summer, I believe that there might have been some supply chain issues, a lot of people buying kayaks, fishing rods, bikes and whatnot. Did your business experience supply chain issues? And if so, how did you overcome that?
Well, actually, it was a big challenge. All manufacturing shut down, shipping from other countries coming in shut down. So the saving grace is other states were open. We saw the trend of what was happening. So when we reopened, we were fully stocked. And so all of a sudden you had a huge demand that we had never seen before. And I look at it in my 26 years, I have never seen it like that before. It's encouraging because people are getting out there and enjoying the outdoors with their families. So it's a struggle. It was a struggle. We're not 100% yet. We don't think that we'll be 100% back in stock probably until June of next year.
Thank you so much. Anyone else want to talk about stock or supply?
Yeah, in our world, certainly, there were some plants that got shut down. There was some pork, so we absolutely had challenges with certain products early on. But, that it was very COVID focused with production. So we would have to modify menus based on that. And obviously getting PPE equipment was also a challenge in the very beginning. But we were able to overcome that. But again, the supply chain is now normalized for us. We don't really have any bumps. We don't foresee any bumps. I heard a little bit about gloves moving forward, but I think masks are fine for us on the PPE side.
I think for us too, we do a lot of, we get cheese from all over the world. So a lot of those, so that stuff's definitely been challenging because sometimes normally you have challenges because sometimes boats get held up at different ports anyway. So a lot of the suppliers have scaled down what they've done for production wise. So we're not available to get as much of a particular item that maybe we had in the past. So again, we did the same thing that Brian just said too. You kind of have to modify, well, we don't have this, but we can offer you this. Why don't you, take that home and give it a try? And a lot of our local producers even are facing two-prong. One, some of them have slowed down, whether it's because of lack of employees or lack of stuff to be able to get to us as a vendor, but also some of them are so overwhelmed, which is great for them, that they're not able to fulfill all their orders. So it's been a little challenging from a retail store perspective, and I'm sure Lisa can talk a little bit about that as well. So.
Yeah, we've faced a few different challenges within the sourcing issues. So like I mentioned before, a lot of the farms in South America and even the ones over in Europe were getting shut down. I mean, there was the most devastating footage coming out of these farms of people just plowing flowers into the ground. So when we were able to get flowers again, we're seeing prices skyrocket and availability is really low. So we actually had to change the model of what we were offering. So we no longer offer, a menu of 700 different kinds of combinations of carnations and daisies. So now you get, the standard, our signature blush arrangement. You have your choice of colors, but you don't have much other choice because my hands are tied on what I can get my hands on. The other challenge that we're facing is a glass shortage. I don't know if anybody else has seen that. So glass, a lot of the glass comes from China that my makers get. So they're facing challenges of getting glass into their warehouses to pour their candles, to pour their reed diffusers, to make cocktail kits. So they're all facing a shortage that then leads to me not being able to get that product in-house. I also have some friends that are local makers of bath products and things, and nothing like staying at home to bring out the side hustle. And everyone has decided to become a maker. So everybody is pouring their own candles and making their own bath bombs. So that leads to shortages on their supplies of what they can get their hands on. So it's really been, it's kind of affected all of us in every way you would never guess. But we're just, again, using that pivot, just trying to come up with a solution everywhere we can.
Great, thank you. Another question from the audience. It talks more about employees. So have you found it hard to keep employees or bring them back if you're ramping up their business? There's often businesses that have a lot of work but have a tough time bringing their employees back or keeping their employees based upon the CARES funding or the FFCRA benefits, that people would rather stay out and use those benefits than work. Have any of you experienced difficulties with bringing back employees or keeping them engaged?
Yeah, we certainly have. Our industry's been affected substantially by that. So two things. One is the initial offering by the feds of $600. If you recall, the PPP required us to pay employees. So we had to pay employees while we were shut down in the first 4 weeks of PPP. But not only did we have to pay them the normal rate, we had to pay them the additional $600 in order for them to be whole. And then once that was modified and we brought them back, it was very hard to motivate, especially young people, where they were getting money from the government and they didn't have to work. That has been in not only that $600, but now we have people that were out of work for a while and they found other jobs. They moved to other industries. We have entry-level employees that were working for us, and maybe UPS needed drivers. Now we lost those people. So our industry has been affected dramatically as far as employees, not only not working, but moving to other industries, and motivation for actually working because of what has been offered by the government.
George, on a professional level where you have kind of at-home employees and in-building employees, have you seen any shift of how you are either training people to work at home, or have you had an issue with retaining employees or finding good help for the good work that you're doing to battle COVID-19?
It's a great question. We have not been impacted in terms of employment in that sense. The company's been wonderful for all of us, and the vast majority that are working from home. The embrace of IT technology to keep us all connected. I think we're all very familiar now with Microsoft Teams and Zoom and that type of connectivity. There's also enhanced benefits Sanofi did provide early on, especially for our essential workers who've been working the entire time, emergency leave, in-home childcare. So the company certainly stepped up and stepped forward with both types of employees, both essential and non-essential, to meet the needs. We've heard from employees, staying at home all day, one Zoom call after another. It's a different type of stress, and every business has different types of stresses. And certainly the company's done a wonderful job, again, even for remote workers, to step forward with benefits revolving around behavioral health. Tips and activities in terms of how to stay motivated at home, to stay energized, I should say, at home, and to move through a new type of stress, a new type of workload for that. So there's been great response from the employees in that sense, and just very proud the company was able to recognize strategies to alleviate and assist both types of workers for our company.
Great, thank you. So we have time for about one or two more questions. I'll ask one of the questions from the audience and then close with another question and appreciate everyone's time. Can whoever best maybe talk about the impact of childcare and remote learning on your employees and how you might have supported your employees in alternate hours or whatnot. It seems that childcare has a huge impact based upon either daycares closing or remote learning and not having the availability to employ a tutor or someone like that for your employees.
I know here at Bass Pro Shops, you know, considering everything that is going on, we try to remain very flexible and help in that sense. If an employee needs off because of daycare, we don't count that against them by no means. And we allow them to make up the time when they can. So we're very flexible with that, considering everything that is going on.
I'll respond as well, Kristen. Similarly, certainly early on, assistance with childcare, again, for those essential workers that had to report into the office, but also other services. Bright Horizons is a benefit we offer to employees that provides tutoring help for children, help with homework. So that allows for our employees who are working during the day to use that service to help with their children. And again, for learning and certainly for the help throughout the day. So we have reached out to those types of service providers to bring in those benefits for our employees. Another great strategy is it's been over communication from the company to employees. Bill Sibold, who is our president of Sanofi North America, weekly puts out a video to all the employees in the US about update on the company that week. And certainly those folks that reported to him do as well. So again, that constant communication and feedback from our employees help us provide the services they need.
Great, thank you both for your answers on that question. So in closing, if anyone would want to discuss, if we see that the vaccine is coming out and is being successful over the next 3 to 6 months, how do you anticipate ramping up your business or keeping your business the same as it is, or pivoting in another fashion moving forward into 2021?
I can, as I had mentioned, we have 10 locations, of which 5 are currently opened. And, you know, opening a restaurant, you know, can take 2 months to get ready for staffing and training and what have you. So, you know, we may have, you know, if things go well, you know, an opportunity to reopen all of our stores come early summer. And, how we stagger that to be able to pull that off, you know, is a big undertaking. And the challenge that we have is that we need those people to be able to pull that off on the payroll, if you will, during some of the most challenging months. And if the vaccine is accepted by the public and people start to come into our stores, we feel great about, you know, building up next summer. I am concerned, I think, as many of you are, is that the public may not choose to take it. And I don't know what the government will do as far as restrictions on restaurants, if that is the case.
I'd like to add that, you know, I think there's a lot of behaviors that have been learned during COVID that even, you know, when we have a vaccine come out, we're going to need to see behaviors you know, change in terms of people comfort level going out and being in larger crowds. It's obviously important to the hospitality, entertainment, and dining industry in retail. So I think the one thing is going to be a lot of marketing efforts that you know, certainly my team is poised to embrace when the time is right. But also that there's been a lot of things learned in terms of sanitation and the way restaurants and hospitality have changed. And I think those are not going to go away and can only benefit those industries going forward. They've learned a lot about maintaining cleanliness, maintaining sanitation, And I think that'll be a good thing going forward, as people are still going to need to feel comfortable going out and going into places where there's crowds. Ventilation, the work that a number of businesses have done about ventilation I think is a positive that will have longer lasting value once vaccine is here and people are starting to feel comfortable going out. But it's going to require a huge marketing effort as well on all of us to get people more comfortable, and we're going to need our communities to support us. I think generally, I think people do want to support businesses, especially local. I think they're going to want to come out and support everyone once that happens.
Great. Well, I wanted to wrap us up and thank our panelists. We know you're all doing great work and have really reinvented the workplace and reinvented your businesses. It's amazing to hear your stories. I wish you all a successful holiday season and a safe holiday season. And thank you so much to our attendees. Again, this will be a taped presentation that we'll be able to share with the rest of our group who wasn't able to attend. So with that, I'll turn it over to Beth if she has any final words, and then Jason for any final housekeeping.
Yeah, just exactly what Kristen said. Thank you to everyone for participating today. Appreciate the discussion. There was a lot learned, I think, that maybe we already knew, but you elaborated on. Thank you very much for participating today, and to our audience too, for the great questions that you presented for our panelists. Jason?
And I'll just close by again thanking our panelists. We scheduled this conversation for an hour, but this is the type of discussion that without restrictions of people's lives and calendars, we could have continued this for 6 to 8 hours and had a really insightful conversation. So I want to thank our panelists for participating today. I want to thank Kristen and Beth as our co-chairs for making this happen. The Partnerships Energy and Sustainable Development Committee will be continuing to have conversations like this going forward. Most of you are probably on our email list, but for those of you who are not, please visit us online at 495partnership.org. where you can sign up to join our email list. And if you had a question for either all or one or a small group of our panelists today and we did not get a chance to ask it, please go ahead and email it in to Jason at 495partnership.org. We'd be happy to pass it along and pass it to our panelists. So with that, again, thank you everyone for participating today. We hope everyone stays safe and hope to see you on the other side. Take care.
Thanks again for having us.